What if someone told you there's a specific time when heaven leans in to hear your prayers? Would you believe it? And what if that time is between 3 and 5 a.m.? It might sound strange, maybe even extreme, but it's in the deep silence of the early morning that some of the most powerful encounters with God take place. And no, this isn't just another religious routine. It's a spiritual key that women of faith have used for generations. This secret prayer, whispered in the dark when everything is still, has been a turning point in countless lives. Miracles have bloomed in the quiet. Anxious hearts have found peace. Families have been restored. Illnesses have vanished. Impossible situations have started to shift, all because one woman chose to rise while the world slept. Billy Graham often said that prayer is the greatest power in the universe, and he was right. Maybe you've never heard of early morning prayer, or maybe you've felt the pull but never had the strength to start. But today, something within you is awakening. That feeling has a name: spiritual awakening. And if I told you that your life could be completely transformed by one simple decision, would you give it a try? Stay with me to the end, because what you're about to discover might be the beginning of everything you've been praying for. Not many people talk about this, but there's a hidden secret in the stillness between 3 and 5 a.m. It's a sacred window when heaven feels closer to earth, and a whispered prayer can echo straight into God's heart. While the world sleeps, the spirit of those with unshakable faith stays awake. Billy Graham once said, "Knees that bend in silence are more powerful than crowds standing tall." And while the lights go out around us, God lights up revelations for those who dare to seek. That's exactly what happened to Claire from Toronto. After months of struggling with anxiety, she decided to wake up during this window and begin her early morning prayer. She didn't follow a script. She simply closed her eyes, took a deep breath and whispered, "God, speak to me." Within weeks, she could feel her soul being renewed, experiencing a peace no medication had ever given her. Claire didn't become some mystic. She became a woman of faith who understood the power of a woman's cry in the sacred stillness. Her spiritual awakening began with one step of faith. Who hasn't felt the urge to do something different but kept saying, "I'll start tomorrow"? Well, maybe tomorrow needs to become today, before the sun comes up. A woman of prayer isn't born ready. She chooses that secret place, that altar, even if she's tired, even if she's sleepy. Waking up at 3 a.m. isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's spiritual warfare fought on your knees. And maybe what you've been seeking, answers, healing, a miracle, is already waiting for you. Between 3 and 5 a.m., most people live on autopilot and don't even realize they're spiritually asleep. But the women of faith who rise in the early hours step into territory few dare to explore. Between 3 and 5 a.m., there is an atmosphere ripe for a life-changing encounter with God, an encounter that transforms everything inside and eventually everything outside. Billy Graham used to teach that prayer opens the gates of heaven and shuts the gates of hell. And it's in this early morning window that miracles begin to unfold. Vanessa, a nurse from Calgary, was on the brink of divorce. But before finalizing the decision, she decided to try this early morning prayer thing. The first few nights felt silent. But on the 10th day, in the middle of her quiet prayer, she felt a presence so strong she wept for nearly an hour. The next day, she called her husband and asked for a fresh start. It wasn't magic. It was spiritual transformation. What she experienced couldn't fit into logic anymore. This kind of breakthrough isn't found in books or seminars. It happens on the cold floor of a bedroom, face buried in a pillow, heart wide open. The woman who chooses to rise at this hour isn't chasing religion, she's pursuing God. And when that pursuit is genuine, heaven responds. It might come as a dream, a clear vision, or simply a deep sense that everything is going to fall into place. And in that moment, something begins to shift in the invisible realm. Maybe you felt it before, the firm intention to wake up at 3 a.m., but your body just won't cooperate. The sleep feels heavier, the alarm more irritating, and the desire to pray disappears like mist. That's not a coincidence. It's spiritual warfare. The enemy knows that a woman interceding in the early hours is far too dangerous for the kingdom of darkness. Billy Graham once said, "The devil isn't afraid of those who sleep, he's afraid of those who pray." This isn't an exaggerated metaphor, it's a spiritual reality experienced by thousands. When Emma from Vancouver decided to begin her early morning prayers, the first few weeks were a battle. She felt dizzy, discouraged, even had nightmares. But she didn't give up. With her Bible open to the Psalms and a cup of tea beside her, she persevered and overcame. Today, Emma is a respected example among the prayerful women in her church and inspires others to take a stand. When the enemy realizes you're waking up early, he tries to lull you back into spiritual sleep. He distracts you with notifications, fatigue, and worries. But the secret is consistency. Even if you start with just 5 minutes, start. Heaven doesn't require perfection, just perseverance. And every time you choose God's presence over comfort, you're saying, "My faith is greater than my convenience." Contrary to what many believe, early morning prayer doesn't need to follow an elaborate liturgy. It's in the quiet, with simple words and unwavering faith, that spiritual battles are won. Even if all you can say is, "Lord, help me," if it comes from the heart, it moves heaven. Billy Graham often emphasized, prayer is the most powerful weapon we have, and often the least used. Between 3 and 5 a.m., that weapon becomes lethal against discouragement, fear, and oppression. Picture a woman standing silently in her kitchen, the stove light glowing while the house sleeps. She doesn't shout, but her voice echoes in the unseen realm. Her heartfelt cry opens paths where there seemed to be no way. The powerful prayer she offers between 3 and 5 a.m. isn't just a request, it's a declaration of victory. And even if she doesn't see immediate results, she's already surrounded by the presence of God. If you feel like you've been facing intense spiritual battles, start praying at this hour. It's not about volume, it's about authority. Read Ephesians 6 and quietly declare the truths God speaks over your life. Put on some soft worship music, light a candle if you'd like. Create a war room, not against people, but against everything trying to keep you from living a transformed life. When a woman takes her place in prayer during the early morning hours, something inside her shifts. She starts to walk differently, speak differently, respond differently. Her unwavering faith becomes visible. People notice it, even if they can't explain it. Billy Graham used to say, "When God changes someone's heart, the world around them changes too." That kind of spiritual authority is quiet, but impossible to ignore. Michelle from Ottawa was an ordinary woman, full of insecurities. But when she began praying between 3 and 5 a.m., something awakened within her. She stopped seeking others' approval and started seeking God's will. Her words carried weight. Her presence brought peace. Today, her friends say she's different, and she truly is. Because someone who walks in intimacy with God never goes unnoticed. This transformation starts small, like a seed. With each early morning, it grows. You don't have to wait until you feel ready, just begin. A woman of faith isn't born with armor. She builds it, piece by piece, prayer by prayer. And before you know it, you're not just praying, you're influencing. And the next place to be impacted, your home. When a woman of prayer rises in the early hours, her home feels it. This isn't just a figure of speech, it's real. Calmer children, a lighter atmosphere, more harmonious relationships. The presence of God she carries throughout the day spreads, cleanses, transforms. Billy Graham once said, "A home sustained by prayer is a fortress against the chaos of the world." And that fortress begins when a woman's cry touches heaven. One day, without much intention, you'll hear your son or daughter repeating a prayer they once heard you whisper. Or your husband, who never showed much spiritual interest, will ask you about that glow in your eyes. That's no accident. That's the fruit of intercession. The woman who prays in the early morning brings protection and miracles into her home. She doesn't need to preach. She simply lives. If you want to see real change in your family, start with yourself. Find a small space, even if it's in the bathroom or your car, and pray. Pray their names. Pray for their emotional well-being. Pray that they too encounter God, because a woman of faith is like a lit torch. Wherever she goes, she brings light, and the fire of faith is contagious. There's a kind of peace that doesn't depend on outer silence, but on stillness within the soul. Women of faith who pray between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. eventually discover this. They may wake up physically tired, but spiritually they are more alive than ever. Anxiety, which once shouted, now only whispers until it fades. As Billy Graham said, when you pray, God changes the situation, but often He changes you first. This habit becomes fuel for the day. Even with chores and responsibilities, those who practice powerful prayer at this hour carry an unexplainable lightness. The mind is clearer, the heart is steadier, and even their reactions to problems shift. It's as if the soul develops resilience. The spiritual battle doesn't go away, but now the woman enters it with shield and sword. A practical tip? Keep a spiritual warfare journal. Write down your prayers, your tears, your small victories. After a month, read it again. You'll be surprised at how much you've changed. This simple practice is a steady step toward a new level of spiritual protection. In times when so many unseen things affect us, fear, insecurity, emotional attacks, early morning prayer becomes a wall around the soul. Women of prayer aren't free from problems, but they walk with a shield. Billy Graham taught that when you walk with God, you're never unprotected, even in the darkest valleys. Prayer between 3 and 5 a.m. isn't magic, it's real spiritual covering. Many women begin this practice seeking answers, but end up finding protection. Some say the atmosphere in their home shifts. Others say their children sleep better, or that conflicts ease. This isn't coincidence. It's intercession. That quiet cry in the early morning reaches heaven. There's a powerful invisible move when a woman of faith bends her knees while the world sleeps. A helpful tip: use Psalm 91 as a daily prayer during this time. Read it out loud, declare it with faith, like planting seeds of safety around your home. If you'd like, play soft worship music in the background. Over time, that space will become your refuge. And when God sees consistent sacrifice, He responds with faithfulness, waking up at 3 a.m., giving up sleep, a warm bed, comfort. That's sacrifice. And God does not ignore sacrifices made out of love. He sees every early morning when you rise with swollen eyes but an open heart. Billy Graham used to say, heaven moves in response to faith, not perfection. God looks at surrender, consistency, and sincerity. Many women don't even know where to start, and that's okay. What matters is starting with the right heart. You don't need fancy words or long speeches. A simple "Lord, I'm here" is already a powerful prayer. God's presence shows up where there is truth, where there is thirst. This pursuit of Him shifts the atmosphere, changes the inner self. It changes everything. If you want to see God move in your life, be willing to move too. Wake up when no one else wants to. Speak to Him when the world is silent, not because it's easy, but because it's powerful. This quiet commitment opens doors, reveals purpose, and prepares the ground for a spiritual transformation that even surprises the one who prays. If you've read this far, maybe your heart is already burning. That's no coincidence. It's a calling, a divine invitation, a summons to join the women of faith who not only transform their own lives, but impact generations. Billy Graham said, the greatest revolution begins with a soul on its knees. Your early morning prayer might just be the beginning of everything you've been waiting for. Maybe you've thought, but can I really do this? The answer is yes. Just start small. A soft worship song in your earbuds, a short 3-minute prayer, a single verse whispered aloud. What matters isn't the lengths, it's the surrender. It's not the volume, it's the truth that flows from your lips. God moves through hearts that say yes. So why not you? Why not now? Why not this very morning? Try this divine test. Choose one day. Wake up between 3 and 5 a.m. Talk to God as you would to a father who listens to everything. And just watch. Watch with your own eyes what he can do, because the secret prayer born in silence echoes into eternity. So, now tell me, what's still holding you back from rising tomorrow between 3 and 5 a.m. to make your secret prayer? Is it sleep, your routine, doubts about whether it will work, or is the enemy already trying to convince you that this isn't for you? The truth is, early morning prayer isn't just a habit, it's a turning point. It's where miracles happen, where heaven answers, where an ordinary woman becomes a woman of unshakable faith. Will you keep waiting for things to change on their own, or will you choose to cry out while others sleep? Will you allow your family to stay in the same cycle, or will you fight for them in the spiritual realm? Will you keep feeling this emptiness, or will you pursue a real encounter with the presence of God? You are called for so much more, and this could be your moment to live a truly transformed life. All it takes is one decision. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. Here, with every video, you'll learn more about the power of prayer, spiritual awakening, and how to walk in everything God has already prepared for you. Your journey begins with a simple yes, and that yes can change everything.